So, if you've been watching Fox News this week, then you might have seen a segment featuring Sean Hannity and Bill O'Reilly, the serial sexual harasser who was fired from Fox News this year. Now, these two individuals decided to have a conversation that might just be the most ironic conversation I've ever seen from any show on the mainstream media. These two decided to talk about the mainstream media's bias. Not even kidding. So, two of the most deceitful, disingenuous political pundits in the history of American media decided to rail against the mainstream media's bias, while not realizing that they're part of the problem, if not the biggest problem, when it comes to the mainstream media's bias.
I want to ask you about the media. I have never seen any institution in America that is so corrupt, so bitterly ideological, so one-sided, that never talk about, you always said the folks, I talk about the forgotten men and women, people that came from our background or worse.
Yeah.
They never talk about them. All they want to do is destroy this president. 24/7, 365 conspiracy theories. I'm loving to hear what you think about it.
Not only do they want to destroy President Trump, but anyone who voted for him.
Anyone supports him on air.
Or gives him a fair shot. It just goes across the board. Look, we're living in a time where there are no more journalistic rules. And I can back that up 50 different ways, but I'm not going to bore everybody tonight, but I will someday. There are no rules anymore. So your major urban newspapers aren't newspapers. They're left-wing journals, and they coordinate. And the people on the cable news shows on the other channels, they're left-wing top to bottom. If you wear a Make America Great hat into the New York Times tomorrow and you work there, you're not going to be working there much longer, all right?
Talk about the pot calling the kettle black. I mean, wow. So they talk about the mainstream media's bias against Donald Trump, and they think that, you know, mainstream media pundits not liking Donald Trump is tantamount to the aggregate media establishment having a left-leaning tilt, when that's not really the case. So ideologically speaking, most pundits are actually centrist, and there are many who are right-wingers, and if we're lucky, we'll get one that's a center leftist. But really, what they're missing here is that there's no such thing as the, quote, liberal media. That doesn't exist. There is, however, partisan media. That is, corporate media outlets that do propaganda for both political parties. Fox News, for example, does propaganda on behalf of the Republican Party, while MSNBC does propaganda on behalf of the Democratic Party. Now, CNN simply serves to maintain the status quo of both political parties. So if one party is in power, then they'll tend to suck up to that party more, and they'll just champion mainstream ideas that you could consider conventional wisdom in Washington, D.C. Now, this happens, though, because the same companies that advertise on mainstream media shows, like Sean Hannity's show, also buy off politicians in both parties. Now, partisanship in the mainstream media really became a problem when President Bill Clinton deregulated the media by signing the Telecommunications Act of 1996 into law. This bill facilitated the consolidation of mainstream media outlets and paved the way for the current media landscape we see today in this country. So that's why we see a partisan bias. So what they're interpreting as a liberal bias is really just the partisan bias that they also do, which is why they effectively serve as the propaganda arm of the Republican Party. Now, the conversation they had about the mainstream media's treatment of Trump was just incredibly hypocritical, because over the years, what has Fox News done to Barack Obama? They've given him the same exact treatment, if not worse, than the mainstream media is currently giving to Donald Trump. Take a look.
I want to believe. I want to trust. I want to hope for change. But I am really failing to see how this is any different.
But he's not going to succeed. Socialism has failed.
Our country's less safe today.
Obama declared the end to the war on terror.
Is this the change that America voted for?
You can't break all your campaign promises.
To start with this blame America.
People, we have to have the conversation of, do you want socialism or not? Do you want universal health care or not?
He's a one-term guy.
There is real dishonesty in this man.
Closer towards socialism.
I think he wants a catastrophe.
Can this now fairly be called the Obama bear market?
What you have to worry about is your motivation.
Communism.
I read an article that said the Manchurian candidate couldn't destroy us faster than Barack Obama.
Wreaking havoc on the country.
The socialism that you've been waiting for.
We have now the extreme left driving the agenda.
Now, ironically, that clip was compiled by Media Matters, who is another partisan hack company, but, you know, thankfully, they are rather effective at calling out Fox News hypocrisy. They just can't see their own bias and hypocrisy themselves. But nonetheless, that clip demonstrates that Fox News was very unreasonable when it came to Barack Obama. They never even gave him a chance. Whereas Donald Trump, the media is relatively harsh and critical, but they never call out Donald Trump when they really need to. So, for example, when he decided to illegally bomb a Syrian airfield, that's when the mainstream media basically was unanimous in praising him. We had Fareed Zakaria come out and say that this was the day he became president. I mean, to say that there's a liberal bias is just maddening to me. So, of course, Fox News, you know, they're completely hypocritical and they can't see their own bias because they're so biased. But they weren't done railing against the so-called liberal media, and they decided to call out liberals who tried to get their shows canceled on Fox.
See, I call them liberal fascists because that's what they are.
Yeah, that's a good description.
The most tolerant people as it comes to speech, we defend Bill Maher. I hate Bill Maher. I never in
You
my...
don't know the real Bill.
Oh, you do. You're buddies with him. I can't stand him. I never said that Kathy Griffin should be fired. Or anybody. I don't say that.
No,
anybody,
I know.
I don't care what they say.
And you don't call for boycotts. You don't
turn the dial.
There isn't a right-wing cabal that does that.
No.
I mean, the right can get hateful. Everybody knows that. I mean, they can. But there's not an organization that goes out and threatens people and boycotts sponsors. Now, here's the insidious part. That's bad enough. All right. There's millions of dollars behind that. And those people who are doing it are being paid to do it. Big money. Wait.
No, go ahead.
Cheryl Atkinson.
Great piece.
Cheryl Atkinson's book, Smear. You've got to read it. This is a brilliant woman, an honest reporter, used to work at CBS. The book is Smear. It'll document A to Z this big money, and these people will do anything.
Bill, every minute of every day, we have Rush on later this week. Every prominent conservative voice is recorded. They're paid to record. They're paid to transcribe. They're paid to look for the one word, sentence, phrase that they can then use to attack either advertisers or others.
Advertisers, that's the most insidious.
And it's worked. Let's be honest. It has worked in the past.
Hannity and I have discussed this off camera, and we're going to fight back. And I have to give you all the credit in the world. You fought back when they came after you last spring. I didn't, and I should have. But anyway, this is so dangerous to the country. People don't know how dangerous this is because most people aren't engaged. They don't pay attention. They just hear things. And these propaganda people throw this stuff out as fact when it just lies across the board.
The hypocrisy in that clip is so thick you could cut it with a knife. Bill O'Reilly wasn't fired because liberals wanted advertisers to boycott his show because of what he was saying. The reason why Bill O'Reilly was fired is because it was revealed that he was a serial sexual harasser and advertisers didn't want to be associated with that type of individual, hence why they pulled out. Do you know what I'd like to call that? That's called the free market, bitch. You guys claim to support it, so all of a sudden you don't like the free market when it goes against you. But that's the way the free market operates. If Bill O'Reilly didn't want to be fired, maybe he shouldn't have sexually harassed women at Fox News for years. And second of all, Sean Hannity had the audacity to claim that conservatives like himself defend free speech and they would never call for someone to be fired for saying something that they disagree with. Meanwhile, just a couple of days ago, they're forgetting that their president, who they love and defend all the time, said this.
I'd love to see one of these NFL owners, when somebody disrespects our flag, to say, get that son of a bitch off the field right now, out, he's fired. He's fired!
Now, did Sean Hannity condemn Donald Trump's comments there? Maybe I missed it, but I couldn't find it, and I watched the clip that he did on the NFL segment. But you see, Sean Hannity, he's not objective. He is the definition of bias. He has a corporate bias, specifically the bias that the Republican Party's corporate donors want him to exhibit. So Sean Hannity is such a hypocrite, and I'm not just calling him a hypocrite because I'm a liberal and have a left-wing bias. But the reason why Fox News is so bad is because, one, everything they say here about other mainstream media outlets is especially true when it comes to them. And second of all, their effect on viewers is actually detrimental. So watching Fox News makes you less informed than people that consume no news at all. And that's not just me saying that. That's a Fairlight Dickinson University public mind survey that actually quantified the effect that Fox News has on viewers in a study. So everything that they say about the mainstream media in this clip is especially true when it comes to Fox News. And even though what they're saying about mainstream media bias, there's a kernel of truth to it, they have a fundamental misunderstanding of the particular bias. I mean, the reason why the mainstream media is at an all-time low when it comes to trustworthiness is because of the corporate influence of the media. So the media is supposed to be considered as this fourth branch of government, right? They're an institution that is supposed to check power and authority, but really all that mainstream media outlets like Fox News, which is mainstream, and MSNBC do, is they serve people in power. That's why we don't like the mainstream media. So Fox News here, they're angry with MSNBC and CNN for doing the exact same thing that they do, except I think that their shilling for the Republican Party is probably more problematic than MSNBC's, because the Republican Party is a lot worse than the Democratic Party, objectively speaking, when it comes to the environment and healthcare and whatnot. So Fox News, I mean, if they really care about media bias, then if they want to correct that problem, the first place to start is with them and by looking in the mirror at their own bias, because it's worse than anything we've ever seen before in American media.
Support this podcast by becoming a patron at patreon.com/Humanist Report.